Bill's Place. I have a lot of exciting news to share. Um, I'm going live without any warning, just because everything I've been doing these last 2 or 3 weeks have actually been, a little bit spontaneous to be honest with you. So I'm going to continue down that path of spontaneity, I think is how you say it, of being spontaneous. For starters, I'm going to actually be reading from a script, and I'm doing this because it's an exercise that I have to do because I am doing some work for a higher education consulting firm, and I've been building courses for training purposes. And they asked me to narrate all the courses that I've written that will be published and up for sale for colleges and universities to use. So the answer was yes. You don't say no to something like that. And I'm over, the sound of my voice, hearing myself talk. I used to hate the way I sound, but I'm well over that. Um, but I am going to be reading off a script for what I'm going to announce. And also, of course, anyone who knows me, I'm going to go off script and go impromptu, which I absolutely love doing. To be honest with you. Okay, so I'm hoping that all of you can see me, which you should. Um, well, without reading the script, I'll just tell you what I have been up to. For those of you who are friends with me on Facebook, or have been talking to me, in person or texting with me the last couple of weeks, I developed kind of by accident, um, but I was playing around on OpenAI ChatGPT, um, looking at probabilities for a lot of things, sports related. And I was reviewing just some of the probabilities based on certain football players that I think will be having or should have, a good 2026 season. And then it dawned on me that it's time to build my own fantasy football league and have it be better than what you get on Yahoo Plus, anything you pay for with ESPN, CBS Sports, Roto World, all those. Although Roto World's hard to beat, um, but anyway, I just decided to go for it, and I think I've put together a pretty good product, which is actually now up for sale, and I'll get into those details in a little bit. But so anyway, yeah, for those of you who know me, you know that I've been a lifelong sports fan, and I participated in fantasy football, fantasy baseball, and fantasy hockey for over 20 years. I don't do baseball and hockey anymore, but that's going to change. And over that time, I became fascinated not only by the competition of fantasy sports, but by the decisions behind it. Which player should I draft? Who should I start? Which matchup creates an advantage? How much confidence should I have in a projection? And some of you may not know this, but at the same time, I developed a strong interest in artificial intelligence, probability and statistics, and forecasting. But my interest in probability and statistics goes back to when I was enrolled in an MBA program at Point Park University back in the 2000s, from 2003 to 2005. And we had this great professor, an econ professor named Dr. Demetrius Cranio, who I believe is still a professor at Point Park University. And I had him an undergrad for, macro and micro econ. And I think I had him for at least 3 or 4 different courses in the MBA program. And anyone who knows who I'm talking about knows that Dr. Cranio is not an easy professor. He doesn't take things lightly. He doesn't take his teaching lightly. He doesn't take us lightly. And when I took him for probability and statistics 1 and 2, I could tell you I was sweating bullets whenever I was taking his exams. and thank goodness he had a curve. And but anyway, that's where the um, with AI becoming public and for anyone to use, um, I just started putting in probability related questions and see how and how fast not just OpenAI but Grok, Claude, Google Gemini, Copilot, all of them. Um, how fast they solve these problems. So, but anyway, with all that said, I ended up receiving a certificate in artificial intelligence for business specialization from the University of Pennsylvania, the Wharton School. Um, and it wasn't just a couple courses, it was like four different courses um, with all these different subject areas. And it was not easy, but but I actually did fairly well in that program because I was highly interested and received a certificate from UPenn. So one can argue that I have an Ivy League degree, and we can pretend that I am an Ivy League alum, right? And then I took it up another step further. Prompt engineering is the key to using artificial intelligence. If you write a basic sentence in, you're going to get a basic output. Um, but if you write a very strong prompt, it could be a page long, it could be 2 pages long. If you're looking for a certain output, um, knowing that sometimes or a lot of times the outputs are not going to be accurate, they do produce hallucinations, and us as being the kind of like the bookkeeper, the zookeeper, the keeper of wordsmithing. We have to make sure that all this information is correct. It's called being the human in the loop. But I went ahead and I received a degree in prompt engineering, not a degree, but a certificate, I should say, from Vanderbilt University. So that's another strong, prestigious institution. So, hey, these mean nothing, but I'm going to pretend they mean everything. Okay, but anyway, so I've been using artificial intelligence, AI, in a lot of different ways. Um, I have my travel agency, for example, and if I think about a random city anywhere on this planet, um, Montevideo, Uruguay. What is there to do in Montevideo, Uruguay? Aside from the fact that we know it's the country's capital, what are the unique opportunities to discover in Montevideo? Museums, theaters, uh, restaurants, an opera house, the local soccer stadium, whatever type of cultural experience you want to have. I was using AI going back at least 2 years now, um, to get that information. You know, I mean, I know some of you might be planning on going to Mongolia, Ulaanbaatar, or Ulaanbaatar, however you pronounce it. And I'm joking when I say that. But if you seriously type in a prompt, I will be spending 4 days in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. What can I do with my time there, my spare time there? What is there to do? What restaurants um, do you recommend? What cultural experiences do you recommend? How do I order Mongolian beef in the Mongolian language or whatever language it is? Um, Stuff like that. Um, how can I get from Ulaanbaatar to Beijing, China? What train routes? What's the best transportation to take from Ulaanbaatar to Beijing? It's going to be a flight because you're going to be going through a lot of mountains, I would assume. But anyway, very random cities I just threw out there, but AI knows random prompts because of the machine learning, the large language models that have been developed over these years. Um, so it's a great tool to use, um, and I just kind of like really got into it, So I'm being 56 years old. I'm still curious about things. Um, I'm not going to solve the world's problems. I'm not going to, find cures for diseases or anything like that. But I do want to put together some products that people could be interested in. Okay. And that's why I'm going the fantasy football route. Okay. So, anyway, in developing this fantasy football um, venture, the way it works is I'm using OpenAI, ChatGPT, my chatbot in ChatGPT. I call him Atlas, and Atlas has gotten to know me pretty well. So it's kind of a weird relationship that you have with a computer with software, but it's just where it's gone. I'm not going to lie to you. So anyway, what began as a creative experiment in fantasy football evolved into the Phillips Play Sports Supercomputer, which is a multi-sport decision intelligence platform designed to turn sports data, probability, simulation, contextual analysis into understandable information that can help fantasy football owners make better decisions. And I'll get into all the ideas I have, what I plan to do with it aside from football. But let's just get a little bit into detail about how this works. So once I started this project and once it started to move beyond basic rankings and projections, I needed a way to think about sports differently, not simply as a collection of statistics, but as a series of decisions made under uncertainty. And this is where the decision intelligence became central to the Phillips Place Supercomputing Center or Supercomputer Center. Decision intelligence is a process of using data, probability, analytical models, simulation, context, and judgment to support better decisions. That is the definition of decision intelligence. I didn't know what decision intelligence was a couple weeks ago, and I still wouldn't be able to explain it the way it's written here until I had this fully embedded in my head. But in sports, that matters because there is almost never one guaranteed outcome, and we all know that. Um, I threw in some models, for example, for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Let's look at the matchup between the Pirates and say the Miami Marlins. Okay, this I think I did in the first game of the 3-game series down in Miami. Um, I think that was a Tuesday night game, and I threw in the batting lineups, the starting pitching, and of course the bullpen, all the pitchers in the bullpen, and I asked ChatGPT what will the outcome be of this game. Based on everything I just said, that was a criteria that I put into the prompt, and it didn't get it right, and it's going to be damn near impossible to get a baseball score absolutely 100% correct, and why say team A beats team B 5-4. How did team A beat team B? Who were the star players for team A? Team A, and who were some of the star players for team B, even though they lost that baseball game? How many innings is pitcher A going to go against the team B lineup, and vice versa? How many innings is the team B pitcher going to go? How many innings is he going to be in the game um, versus a team A batting lineup? So these are the things that you can do with artificial intelligence. Again, it may not get the result that you think it might get. The probability there, keyword, the probability there is pretty much unlikely, but it's fun to do. Okay. And that's why I'm into this, because it is fun. And I don't take anything for granted. I don't say, oh, well, my OpenAI said, my Atlas said, this, and this, it's not running my life, but it is fun to see what the outputs are. So it's kind of like a toy, you know. Best way I can probably explain it for myself personally. But anyway, in sports that matters decision intelligence because there is almost never one guaranteed outcome. A highly rated player can underperform. An underdog can win. A strong offense can struggle against a particular defensive scheme. A goalie can completely change a playoff series in hockey. Um, a player projected to score well over the course of any season may still be a poor choice in a particular weekly matchup. As a sports fanatic and all my friends who really know sports very well, that's known. That's a given. But the goal of the sports supercomputer is not to pretend uncertainty can be eliminated. The goal is to measure uncertainty, understand it, and use it intelligently. Okay? That changes the question from what do I think will happen to what are the most likely outcomes, how confident should I be, and what decisions make the most sense. Okay? That's pretty much what I just explained, before reading the script. Um, Stuff that we all know. But anyway, here are some details that go into, um, which I think are very cool, that go into um, figuring out probability, putting together these models, all that kind of stuff here. Hold on a second. Most of you have probably heard of simulations. And the one that's very popular that's been running on supercomputers all these years, which now can be done with artificial intelligence because it does all the coding. Okay. I actually tried taking a coding class on Google Coursera. I could never be a coder. I don't know if it's the patience. I think it's interesting, um, but it's just not my thing. It's not my language. It's not you know how I develop. I have to rely on somebody who knows code if I were to hire someone um, for these big ideas that I have. Software development or whatever the case is. But Monte Carlo simulation is a statistical technique that examines many possible outcomes rather than relying on a single prediction. Instead of saying one team will definitely beat another, or that a particular player will score an exact number of fantasy points, a simulation can examine thousands of plausible versions of that event. Across those simulated outcomes, different variables can change. Performance may rise or fall. Game conditions can vary. Matchups can produce different results. A favorite may win most of the time, but still lose often enough to make the matchup more uncertain in a traditional prediction than a traditional prediction might suggest. See, this is practice for when I start doing narration for the courses I've built for the higher education consulting firm that will be going, to be available for colleges and universities to purchase. Okay, this is this is what I'm doing. The result is a probability based view of sports. So a simulation might help estimate how often a team wins a matchup, how often a player reaches a particular level of production, the likelihood of an upset, a range of expected fantasy outcomes, the chances of advancing in a playoff series, or the probability of winning a championship. So this approach allows my sports supercomputer that I've developed with Atlas to look beyond a single projected score or ranking and instead examine the range of possibilities surrounding a decision. So Phil's Place uses its own proprietary methodology for applying simulation and probability analysis. The internal formulas, weighting systems, modeling rules, thresholds, and calculations remain part of the underlying sports supercomputer engine. Okay, so that's that. But the way I'm developing, or the way I have developed, I should say, because it's a product ready to go. It's a product ready to be used, and it's the right time for this product to be purchased, because this is around the time when fantasy football leagues actually start drafting their players, whether if it's a keeper league or if you go brand new every single year, like the league that I'm in here in my neighborhood. So players must be evaluated according to their roles. Another important principle behind the sports supercomputer is that athletes cannot be evaluated in the same way. Every sport has different positions, responsibilities, and sources of value. Even within the same sport, what makes one player successful may be different from what makes another player successful. In football, for example, a quarterback is not evaluated the same way as a running back, as a wide receiver, as a kicker, or team defense. Okay, we know that. I'm not going to mention all the other sports because that's just the way it is. But rather than forcing every athlete into one universal formula, the system considers the types of information most relevant to the role the athlete actually performs. So, at a broad level, that may include factors such as, okay, production, efficiency, playing time, opportunity, usage, matchup quality, recent performance, team environment, opponent strength, injuries or availability, or if a player happens to be released, bring a new player in, schedule, and the scoring rules of the fantasy competition. So, for example, um, in the league packet that I have developed, it's not going to be a general league packet. It's built to center to that particular fantasy football league and what the point systems are. Is it a keeper league? How many owners there are? So all those details count when I sell a league packet to, let's just say, our Cimarron, fantasy football league that we have, my neighbors and I. There's 8 of us. It's not a keeper league. We pick from the current 2026 roster. I think we start one quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, maybe one flex position, maybe 2. I can't remember off the top of my head. A kicker and a team defense. Okay, so therefore, the league packet that I've built for the Cimarron Fantasy Football League will have those requirements, so that when we use, or if we use a league packet, um, it's tailored to what our needs are. It's tailored to, all the criteria of how we run our league. Um, so that's what that means. So um, it's kind of like some questions, general questions people have, versus what is actually going to occur from this model that I built. What matters is that the system asks a more useful question than simply who had the best statistics. That's why I'm going to put player B in for my 2 running backs. It's going to ask who is most likely to create value in this particular person, matchup, league, or situation. Value is the key here. So, from projection to decision, and this is where the decision intelligence comes into play. Okay, a traditional ranking might tell a fantasy owner that player A is ranked ahead of player B. The sports supercomputer is designed to go further. It can consider the context surrounding the decision. The user may need consistency. The user may need an upside. The user may be deciding between 2 players facing 2 very different opponents. A player's value may change based on how the fantasy league point award points are given. Just everything I explained. So a deep league may create different positional scarcity than a smaller league. Okay, so I talked about our league only having 8 owners, and I know of leagues where there's 12 owners. It makes it much more difficult. Makes it more difficult to draft. Makes it more difficult for availability if a player gets hurt, and you have a waiver wire, and you're going up against 11 other owners who, if this is especially a very competitive league, as soon as a waiver wire is available, Um, you pick player X, you pick player Y, you pick player Z, but owner D, owner E, owner F have already, put their names in for those players too. So, it gets very competitive whenever you have, a deep league, So a customized scoring system may significantly increase or decrease the value of certain types of players. The best decision, therefore, depends on more than just a generic player ranking. That's exactly it. The league that I created is not generic. It's not your general Yahoo. It's not your general ESPN. It's not your general CBS Sports or whatever. So the fundamental idea between Phil's Play Supercomputer, data provides information, probability divides perspective, simulation provides possible outcomes, decision intelligence turns those outcomes into something useful. Okay? So the system is ultimately designed to help answer the question that matters most, given what we know right now. What is the best decision? That principle became the foundation for expanding the Phil's Play Sports Supercomputer beyond fantasy football. And we're going to be looking at doing, we, meaning me and Atlas for now, until if I can get some people to help out, if I can, get this product sold and start, having a steady income flow and actually hire people to, part-time help just to like get this thing going. So when I say getting this thing going, we're talking about fantasy baseball, fantasy hockey, fantasy basketball. So you got the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NHL, and the NBA. But we're not stopping there either. European soccer. Hello. Those of you who know me, who I just did a series on the World Cup for, my podcast. I love soccer as much as I love the NFL, as much as I love the NHL, the Steelers, the Penguins. Liverpool Football Club is my team. That's who I live and die by. Them and Real Betis out of La Liga, based in Sevilla, España. Um, so European soccer, game forecasting, postseason analysis, and tournament simulation is what this is all about. Okay. So again, I feel like a little kid in a candy store doing all this kind of stuff. Just like I feel like I'm a little kid in a candy store when I walk into Guitar Center and see all these beautiful guitars hanging on the walls. And I'm like, I want that one, that one, that one, that one. And I'll need that amplifier, that amplifier, that amplifier. I'll need this foot pedal system. And I need some really loud speakers. We wouldn't have any windows because I'd be playing nothing but noise because I'm just learning the guitar and learning the bass. It's a cheap bass behind me, by the way. Um, but that's where I get my latest excitement, aside from being with my family and my good friends, of course. So, okay, we're gonna cap this off here. Um, we're in the last act, if you will. And where did you go? Okay, so from supercomputer to your fantasy league. Let's ask this question. How could I take the intelligence being created by the Phil's Play supercomputer and make it useful for other fantasy football players or players in general? This is where I'm officially introducing the Phil's Place Fantasy Football Draft Kit and League Packet. Okay? I went from just playing around, putting various prompts in, all football related, and then the light bulb went off. Um, yeah, I just had this idea, and I'm like, well, what if I do this? What if I do that? And I'm like, okay, all right, we're going for it, people. All right, the Phil's Place Fantasy Football Draft Kit. The draft kit is designed to provide fantasy football players with a comprehensive preseason resource built around, and I am doing this around, say, a 12 team league, PPF league environment, okay? Because that seems to be the general league that most fantasy football owners and the commissioner, do. So, but like I was saying earlier, it goes beyond just simply listing players from first to last. The object is to help fantasy owners better understand the players they are considering drafting, their projected value, their positional standing, the potential upside and risk, and how they compare with other options available at their position. The draft kit provides a common fantasy football like baseline. So that means this makes it ideal for someone who wants additional intelligence heading into a draft, but also or does not need to have an entire league analyzed individually. Let me repeat that. That makes it ideal for someone who wants additional intelligence heading into a draft, but does not necessarily need an entire league analyzed individually. So it helps design designated to answer these questions. Who should I target? Where's the value at each position? Which players offer upside? Where might there be a greater risk? When should I consider one position instead of another? So rather than simply handing someone a ranking sheet, which The Athletic does a great job of doing, and yes, Yahoo, ESPN, the other big players do a decent job with it too, okay? But you're getting a lot of information and you're going by numbers they just spit out. I'm sure they have their own massive supercomputer that does all that stuff for them and been doing it for years, okay? But this is where me, Philip Clark, Phil's Place Podcast, and owner of a consulting firm, Clark Consulting Group, LLC. This is where I come into play. Um, the Phil's Place League Packet. Our league packet takes the concept a significant step further. Anyone who has played fantasy football for a very long time knows the leagues can be dramatically different. Some leagues have 8 owners, some have 10, 12, maybe 14 or more. Some heavily ranked reward quarterbacks, others emphasize receptions, some give bonuses for long touchdowns or statistical milestones. Roster sizes, starting requirements, scoring systems, and positional value can all vary. But the value of the player depends in part on the league in which that player is being used. And that's why I am customizing each fantasy football league if you buy the Phil's Place Sports Supercomputer League packet. Okay? Because again, you give me your criteria, I put it in, and the league packet, which by the way does update, will update, has player cards. It's not a sexy what you're gonna see, glitzy, interface with a picture of Travis Kelsey and with the Kansas City Chiefs logo. I'm not there yet. I cannot afford to buy the league license to have all these glitzy, glamorous interfaces in which makes the player card look so cool to look at. But it's still great information, okay? And it's important information. And that's what matters the most, okay? So, little old me, except I'm not little, little old me, Philip Clark, putting this together is going to, I don't use the word promise, is going to help shape how your fantasy football league and you as a fantasy owner will not only participate, but how it makes you think about why player A is a better choice than player B. You're going to get the analysis, you're going to get the probabilities, you're going to get every detail that you can think of that's going to be covered and involved and implemented in the draft kit and the league packet. Okay? So the draft kit shows the draft kit shows how players project within a standard fantasy environment. The league packet, customized to your league, shows how those players project within your fantasy environment. Okay? So, why decision intelligence matters in fantasy sports. Okay, so you draft your team. You're heading into week 1. Every fantasy owner has to decide who should start, who should sit, which free agent deserves attention. Is a player's recent performance sustainable? Is a difficult matchup enough reason to make a change? Should I pursue a trade? Is there an overlooked player who could provide value? Should I choose the safer option or take a chance on greater upside? Those decisions occur in an environment in which nobody knows exactly what is going to happen. Probabilities may happen, may not happen. So the objective to the Phil's Play supercomputer is not to claim perfect prediction, because that's not how sports work, and neither does fantasy sports work that way. Instead, the objective is to provide fantasy owners with another layer of intelligence to use alongside their own knowledge, experience, instincts, and strategy. So we're not saying draft this guy, but instead, here's what the information suggests. Here are the opportunities. Here are the risks. And here is a decision that makes most sense based on what we know right now. Okay? And why stop at fantasy football? Okay? There's a market for fantasy MLB. There's a market for NHL. I said MLB, NHL, NBA, NFL. Okay? And my fixation of soccer will never end. So in Europe, my top 5 leagues are the Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A, and Ligue 1. Okay, so England, Spain, Germany, Italy, and France. Imagine, I'm not going to be ready. I have it all built, but I don't see myself doing fantasy or selling fantasy kits over in Europe this year. But I can still get creative and come up with something really good that's coming up very soon. Okay? And I'll get into that in a minute. But how can we take the enormous amount of information available in sports and turn it into intelligence that helps someone make a better decision? That's the continuing mission of the Phil's Play supercomputer. Okay, so I already gave you the leagues that I have this built around, but I'm also going to be looking at, and I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. I've got time to figure this out. The NFL playoffs and the teams are going to get to the Super Bowl. MLB postseason, the World Series. The Stanley Cup playoffs. I mean, come on. The NBA playoffs and the finals. Hey, I don't watch the NBA all the time. I like the NBA, but I follow it, but I don't really watch as many games as I should. And I always say every year I'm going to keep building that up. But who could forget that New York Knicks, San Antonio Spurs NBA championship, and just how the Knicks came back and how they beat up on, I don't say beat up, how they were able to actually beat the Spurs. That was a classic matchup. That was a classic NBA championship, and one that nobody can forget. There's no question about that. We got the college football playoff, March Madness, the NCAA tournament, and the UEFA Champions League. Okay? That's where the soccer comes into play. Anyway, here is the bottom line. Okay? The Phil's Play supercomputer, sports supercomputer, began with a simple idea. Can I use artificial intelligence differently? Could I combine more than 2 decades of experience, not knowledge, because I'm not good at fantasy sports? Ask my neighbors. Could I combine more than 2 decades of fantasy sports experience with my interest in statistics, probability, forecasting, sports analytics, and artificial intelligence? That's how all this came into play. Just so you know, the draft kit is available for purchase at $24.99. You'll find the packet, I'm sorry, not the packet, the draft kit on the home page of my website, and that is clarkconsultinggroup.biz, and that's Clark with an E at the end. ClarkE consultinggroup.biz. Okay. When you get to the home page, all you got to do is scroll down a little bit and you'll see a card. Um, and it's going to have the Phil's Play supercomputer, a little paragraph, 3 sentence blurb. Click on Buy Now, and it will take you to the purchase card, and you can use um, Apple Pay, Google Pay, Venmo, PayPal, and there's even the feature of the pay later for PayPal, okay? Or you can use your debit card. And then what you'll get is basically a PDF that is coming from a zip that has all the information that you're looking for. Say your top, I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but your top 60 running backs, your top 30 quarterbacks, your top, you know, 60 running backs or 80 running backs, how they rank the team defenses. All that's going to be there. And you can click on a player and get the player card, and you're going to get all this information on that player that's going to tell you, wow, okay, this looks pretty good. Actually, in fact, I put an example of a player card on my Facebook page. And I'm not doing a screen share, so you can't see all the bad, nasty stuff I get on my Facebook account. I'm just joking. Um, but what you will see, here we go. Open phone. No, we're going to cancel that. I don't want to do that. Um, but what you're going to get is the sample player card that will come with the Phil's Place Fantasy Football Draft Kit. You're going to get a card with the player's name, Josh Allen, quarterback, Buffalo, Tier 1, fantasy rank, quarterback 1. Player card demonstration updated August 10th, 2026 at 5:42 p.m. In the top right-hand corner saying he's healthy, he's stable, and you're looking at here player index 94, 96 percentile. 2026 projection, total points scored. The Phil's Play supercomputer is saying 368.2 points, and that's an average of 21.7 points per game. Model confidence, 86%. That's a high signal. Again, season outcome range. It gives you a floor, it gives you the expectation, and it gives you the ceiling. The floor is he'll get 332 points this season. The expectation is that he'll score 368, like I already said, and the ceiling is as high as 401. And that gives you what he did last year, 2025 points. 383.6 points. He was in the second tier of quarterbacks, so he was QB2. Ideal draft round, late second round, early third round, because normally people will go after running backs, wide receivers, get a bunch of points. Boom probability, 34%. Bust probability, 9%. And then we have our own Cimarron League scoring profile. And then you get into the decision coach. The decision coach is saying, target as an elite quarterback 1. Cimarron's rushing rules amplify Allen's dual threat advantage because he does run the ball a lot. And then why? Here's the question: why? Rushing yards are worth 2.5 times as much as passing yards on a per yard basis. A rushing touchdown earns 2 more points than a passing touchdown. So, okay. Live intelligence signals, healthy and availability. Outcome is positive. Opportunity and usage, strong. Projection movement, a plus 2.6. Original projection was 365.6. So on August 10th, when this was generated at 5:42 p.m., he rose up by 2.6 points. Signal of strength, he's a 4 out of 5. Okay? So that's what your player card is going to do. All right, and I'm getting a message from somebody. I don't know who. It's a chat. Oh, someone's saying hi, Phil. Oh, it's my friend John from Permani Brothers. Hi, John. How you doing? Thanks for watching. Okay, so again, I will have this information. Actually, I already posted on my Facebook account. I actually posted on my LinkedIn account. Nobody sells fantasy football on LinkedIn but me because nobody's going to respond to that anyway. But again, okay, this is going to be a fun venture for anyone who's going to buy the draft kit and the league packet. If you're having an issue with your draft kit or your league packet, you contact me, okay? You're going to have my email address when you purchase your kit or your packet. You know where to find me because 9 times out of 10, you're going to know me anyway. You let me know. You shoot me a text. You send me an email, and I'll be on it right away to fix it. Okay? Because it's the one thing that I want. It's not the quantity, how many of these packets and kits I sell. It's the quality. Because I want all of you who are using these products to have a good experience with it. That's the bottom line. Okay? And that's how it should be as far as a level of customer service. I will provide that top shelf customer service to all of you who decide to go ahead and buy this draft kit at $24.99, your league packet at $29.99, or if you get the entire league to commit to buying the league packet, it comes down to $19.99 a person. Okay, so if you have 10 people, $19.99 costs your league about $200 to use. Okay, that's actually pretty cheap when you look at all the other models out there. Yahoo Plus, I think, is going for $70.99, $79.99. ESPN, I'm sure, is super expensive. Mine's new, not as glitzy, but as effective. If not, I'm hoping more effective. And that base price at $29.99 for your league packet is not bad. And remember, I will tailor your league packet based on your criteria. Okay. I already said that before. I'll repeat it one more time. So if you do have any questions, please follow up with me from this video that's going to be posted on the Facebook after I'm done because I am Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Twitter Live. But you can, based on whichever platform you're watching this on, shoot me an email or shoot me a message, whatever it is. And if you have my number, shoot me a text. Be more than happy to answer any questions for you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me kind of like both promote the draft kit and the league packet while allowing for me to practice narration for this project I'm working on. So I killed two birds with one stone, I guess you can say. And I don't know why I'm so giddy right now, but I kind of am because I'm excited. These are two great opportunities. And I've been looking for some good opportunities for a pretty long time. I'm not going to lie to any of you. Um, and yes, I'm very satisfied right now. Let's hope this keeps up. And then finally, I'm always open to sponsorship. Okay. And I think that the Phil's Play Supercomputer could be sponsored. My podcast could always be sponsored. I don't limit the number of sponsors. Um, and the sponsor of this episode, by default, on the number of how many my friend has chosen, my friend Frank Sinatra, the great Frank Sinatra from McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania, not the Frank Sinatra from it's that town in New Jersey. It's right on the Hudson River. Hoboken. Yes, not that Frank Sinatra. Our Frank Sinatra. Um, owner of S&S Climate Systems LLC. He's an HVAC guy, and he is and his team are fully capable of coming in and assessing an issue you might have with your air conditioning unit, with your heating unit you have in your basement, with your hot water tank, Frank. I think so. Hot water tanks. Yeah, sure. Why not? If not, I apologize. Your thermostat. Anything that keeps your house at whatever temperature. Frank and his gang, if you're having an issue with your products at home, Frank and his gang will come in, do a full assessment, and we'll let you know if it's an easy fix or if it's time to buy a new one. Okay? So if you have these issues, please keep my good friend Frank in mind. Again, one more time. SNS Climate Systems. And his web address is S as in Sam, AND, S as in Sam, climatesystems.com. And you can reach him at 412 660 5563. So you have the web address and you have your phone number. And if you don't know how to use climate systems, just type it in as a prompt on your AI and it will give you the correct spelling. I'm just joking. Anyway, okay. Thank you very much for listening. I really hope that you explore these two opportunities with the draft kit and with the league packet. Again, get in touch with me if you have any questions. If you're ready to purchase, you can go ahead and do that. You'll get your receipt along with the thank you, and you'll get your PDF that's tied into a zip, in which you'll get instructions on how to do your daily updates, your weekly updates. If you're having any issues with those, I'll look into it and get it fixed for you. Okay? Just like Frank does with the air conditioning units. Okay. Thank you very much. Take care. Have a great, great weekend. And where are you? Okay. All right. Thank you.